shadows and it gives me quite a fright. Keeps me up with cold sweats in the middle of the night. Dismay, distress, and discomfort are but the hallmarks of this plight. And if you look a little closer, you can see it in the signs. The beast, he is upon us, he won't rest until we die. I'm afraid that it's only a matter of time. He's got two massive arms that can crush your skull like nothing. He's nothing but a swamp thing, but I know he's up to something. Lurking in the tree line, always out of sight, just a menace in the shadow of the night. First time that I saw him, I knew that he was trouble. I swore right then and there I'd turn his ass to rubble. I stalked him, pursued him, I chased him around this godforsaken globe. There was a photo on an old cell phone. The grain was high and the light was low, but if you squint, it looks just a little like me. There's something in the shadows, oozing and goozing. He's coming this way with the face of a man who's always in pain. Quite a sight in the night on the back of a plane. Something in the shadows, clammy and dank as he waits by the bank. Limbs made of limbs, flesh made of soil, steamy and wet, unsightly and vile. Dripping with mucus, he longs to be pure, beyond all content. He never deserved to be. Something in the shadows, something in the shadows, something. Something lurks here. 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 Something lurks here.
Hey, good peeps, thanks for listening in. I hope everybody will get the chance to look over the PI report, look over those documents, make some notes, and we want to schedule a conference call in the very near future. I think with schedules we will have to wait till sometime next week, and Dan Hinnon is now doing his podcast on Fridays, which of course is my preferred date. So I'm kind of open to any other suggestions for days to do a conference call next week. Maybe we'll put out a poll onto the group and see what everybody, what is the best time that everybody can join in and share their views on, of course, any topics. But I think the main thing right now is the private investigator and what the findings were, that the private investigator agrees with the investigators. And then when you look at why the private investigator agrees with the investigators, I think that's really the part that I'm struggling with here. So I'm going to read it again, read it a few more times. I need to understand that part, because right now I really don't understand it, but that's okay. The investigator was hired for a purpose, and the investigator was also hired to give their opinion. So that was always the case. Transparency has always been one of the most important things here, if not the most important. You can't have transparency without a good, proper look at a situation like this. And you got to do the due diligence, as they say. So you hire a PI, and you see what they find. Whatever they find, you go with it. Okay, that's what the private investigator finds. So we're gonna just go with the fact that this is what the private investigator thinks is true. Private investigator has made it clear that they're open if any new information, any new data comes out. So reading the 27 pages, I do believe there's some room for some follow-up, definitely. Let's just put it like that. But regardless, it will be an interesting conference call, and I hope everybody can join us if you can. So let me know what days are good, what dates are good, what times are good, and we'll go from there. But I'd like to do one as soon as possible. This Thursday, Dan Hinnon and myself and Sophia and possibly Catherine will be recording something where we kind of give our thoughts on this. So it's not that I'm holding back or holding off on giving my thoughts on it, but I feel like I do need to read it a few more times. There are a few weird things that I found in there that I didn't understand. Didn't understand at one point he calls them all victims. There's 3 victims here, and then it goes into, well, you know, I think David was guilty, and he really doesn't. He just says that he agrees with the investigators, and I'm thinking, and I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, is this what investigation? Is this what investigators are being taught? And how far back does this go? So, anyways, that's what happens. That's what you got to do. So you got to be willing to go with it and just say, you know what? All right, private investigator believes that the investigators did a flawless job. I mean, he goes so far to say how great of a job that they've done. I've heard this script before. So that was another curious thing, because obviously they didn't. And even the investigators themselves will probably tell you that too, that they messed up. Maybe not in so many words, maybe not in a direct public quote, but they know. I mean, everybody knows. You can't, missing two bullets on 2 separate days, coming back a month later, coming back 2 days later. That's not what I would call a flawless investigation, or it's not what I would call, a good investigation. I understand they don't want to attack the investigators, and I try not to. It's hard not to, just because there's so many things that the investigators got wrong, so many things that they didn't look at, and so many things that this guy, I just don't think he had that much knowledge on some of these deeper things, on some of these more questionable things, some of the small things, even like the newspaper. There was a newspaper found in the Crowley kitchen garbage, and he mentions that it was dropped off on the 23rd, leaving out the fact that, okay, according to who? According to three people. You got three people here. You got the son who dropped off that paper. Wasn't really sure when. Then you got the mom who says that the son dropped off the paper on the 24th. Then you have the coordinator, Mrs. Silberg, I believe her name is, who worked for Sun this week, who gives a separate date, a third date, as to when the paper could have been dropped off, and basically says that there was no way that there's no way this could have been dropped off on the 23rd. So the private investigator, I hope, looked at the 94 pages and looked at that part, and for whatever reason, maybe they felt it was not a valid thing. But it seems like we have three people, giving us three separate dates to when the newspaper was dropped off, which might not seem like a big thing, but it's what they're using. I've seen them use it several times to try to give us a timeline of what happened, and it is a guess. It is a guesstimate, and that's really all that the investigators can do. I was not surprised that the private investigator did not really challenge the official conclusion. I'm not sure if the private investigator even understood it or if it's mentioned in his findings. So I'd be curious to find that out too. But yeah, just keep an eye out. We will be having a video. We'll record Thursday night, and we'll probably air it this coming Friday. And then we'll work on another conference call, so that people can jump on the line and give their own views. If you don't want to get on the microphone, if you're kind of nervous about that, if you want to send me a written statement, something that you'd like read, we'll have somebody read it there too. So just trying to give people a place where they can share their views. And if I remember correctly, I don't think he really mentions item 53, kind of glosses over that, about that being found on separate dates. And can't really blame him too much, but if he didn't know about these bullets and bullet holes that nobody saw, and he says that that's common or that's normal, really, if that's common and if that's normal, again, we need a massive change in the way that investigators in Minnesota and California, and probably many other states too, the way that they're being trained, the way that they're being taught. I have a hard time believing that they're training people to go with murder first, to go with suicide first, to go with... I have a hard time thinking that these investigators are being trained to put suicide first, to put murder first, as opposed to, a triple homicide. So I thought that was kind of odd too. Why would you put... we're seeing all these different cases where everything is a suicide and this guy killed somebody over and over and over. So I thought that was pretty odd. He does mention the fractured rib, so I thought that was good too. But then just kind of, that's it. The most complexing thing is Ranya's fractured rib. He gives reasons why it could be murder and reasons why it couldn't be murder, and it's just, it was disappointing. It's not even the right word for it, but come on, the expectations were not high, and there was nothing to really lose. They have everything to gain from this. By Dan Hinnon doing this, and thank you, Dan, again for doing this. We all gain from it. We gain more knowledge. We get to see how deep this goes, and you could see it now. Oh yeah. I see it. I'm sure you see it too, how deep this goes. This is what it's about here. Getting these people on record to tell us what they think about this case. You know, not attacking them, understanding that this is freedom of speech. They have the freedom to believe whatever they want. Their opinion is, they're entitled to have that. I don't have any problem with that. But we have opinions too. And I think this really shows kind of where this culture is at, where this country is at, and some of the things that we need to change at the local level, at our level, at the ground level, from what I call it, right? And we can. And I think cases like this will, in the future, help get some of these trainings changed, get some of these, the mentality of a guy like this, that it comes to a conclusion like this after all of the experience. And you look at how heavily experienced and everything, indoctrinated at some point, must have happened. There must have been some indoctrination, obviously. And yeah, that's it. So I have a hard time understanding that why this guy came to this conclusion. Like I said, I'm going to read it a few more times. I will be writing an article on this too. And I want to understand. I do. I really want to understand. And that's not what he's doing, right? So look at 3 things. I don't want to influence people too much. I've probably already said way too much. Really trying to hold back until I can really examine this thing, examine this report a couple times, and really come to have my own opinions on his opinions, and try to show why this is just, man, it's just par for the course. It seems like we have this over and over again. Yeah, but it was interesting. I think it was worth it. I don't think it was a failure of any time. The only failure would have been not doing it. And it's not a failure, because you need this. You know, it would have been a failure if it came out and then this guy agrees with the official theory, so we're just going to gloss over it. We're not going to talk about it. We're never going to mention it again. Obviously, that was never, ever going to happen. It was always going to be like this, transparency. And I wasn't aware how much transparency, but I definitely appreciate that. I think that was a very noble thing that Dan Hinnon did, was to hire this person, knowing what the credentials were and everything, and allowing this person to come to their own conclusion. And that's what we need. We need more of that. We need more investigators, more private investigators, more people in law enforcement. We need their views too, and it's very important. And you can't just say because one person agrees with us, then we're all right. The same way you can't say, well, if this guy disagrees with us, then we're all wrong, right? It always will go back to the same thing. And if we're only looking for the things, if we're only going to focus on all of the stuff that proves David guilty, it's not going to work, because you're not going to get the whole story. And at the same time, if we're only going to focus on everything that shows that he's not, we're not going to get the whole story either. Part of the big story is seeing why investigators did what they did, why they came to the conclusion of what they did. And I never understood it, having researched this thing for 4 years now, almost, maybe, somewhere around there. And this guy who has all of the experience, all the credentials, can't see some of these simple things. So, again, if it's just a training issue, then we need to work on that. We really need to work on that, because the accusations should not be taken so lightly, and should not be spread out so quickly, so early, with nothing to really go on. And I know that's clear, and I know I say it over and over again. I know a lot of people already know that, and knowing that, even then, they still want to give up. They want to give in. They want to quit. It's all over. Well, that's not going to happen. We're going to keep moving forward. Goal has always been the same, and the goal will always stay the same, because it is a simple goal, and it is not as complicated as some people try to make it seem like. With God, everything is possible. Everything is possible. If it's His will, we will know. And if it's not, then we won't. But we already know one thing for sure. All say it with me now. What do we know for sure? Here's what we know for sure. There's no evidence that proves David Crowley guilty. If they had it, they would have presented it. But they don't have it. Furthermore, you can never prove a dead man guilty. He's dead. So why are these investigators, why are these people walking around saying he's guilty? It's their opinion. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. It's their view. It's their thought. That's what this guy's job was to give his opinion. That's it. That's not what the investigators assigned to this case were supposed to do or should have ever done. So this is how you do it. This is the balance. This is the way that you look at all of these things here. Not short-sightedness. With the big picture in mind. And we know what the big picture is. You are never going to get somebody on a stand or off of the stand somewhere. You're never going to get somebody to prove David Crowley is guilty. Meaning, we hold that opportunity because they will never get anybody to prove, because nobody can ever prove David Crowley is guilty. That door will always remain open, that we can prove that he's not. And it's simple. It's a simple math. If you're looking for 1 + 1 to equal 2, you gotta have 1 and 1. You can't just have 1 and say, well, I think it equals 2. It equaled 2 the other times, it's gotta equal 2. And it's sad. Justice will come. Justice comes for us all. For all of us. Nobody escapes the judgment of God. Nobody who is not looking for truth. If you are looking for truth, you know where to find it. So as we keep moving forward, I do hope that we will schedule this conference call soon. And I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear what people think. Real people. Good people. People that are sincere. People that actually care about this case. Because there are good people that I know out there that do believe David Crowley is guilty. And that's fine. That's fine. But none of them, not one of them, has ever been able to give me anything but their feelings. And then they want to weigh their feelings against our facts. And the facts are clear. So, you take your feelings out of it, it's a little bit different. But to have an opinion like that, it's just, it's always been a win-win. It's a win-win for us. It really is. I know people might not see it like that, but it is. So God bless you all. Keep up the good fight. Now, God bless you all. Keep up the good fight. We have many, many more miles to go. Many more miles to go. This is not the end. Not the end of the race. Just the very beginning. That's it. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think this is more proof of the mentality that we're up against, that we're dealing with. And I think we're seeing that change. I really do. I think we're going to continue to see that change. We're going to see more and more and more people asking questions, as we've seen. I do think we need to get more serious about starting the early stages for a documentary. I am still working on my book, and I do hope to have that finished very, very soon. And once that is finished, then I would like to work on a documentary pretty much based on the book and with the audio book. So I don't know. Maybe the audiobook will be the documentary, just an audio version. Not sure, but that is the plan. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate all of your hard work, all of your concerns, all of your prayers, and all of your fight for the truth, to get to the truth, whatever it is, wherever it leads you. That's where we need to go, wherever it leads you. God bless.